There are some of us that realize that mayonnaise is good on virtually everything, including hot dogs.
It's Kara Dixon with Candid with Kara, and today we are with Mark Warner.
Hey Kara, how are you?
I'm doing great. So, how are you today?
Well, you know, beautiful day down in Hampton. What's not to like?
A little humid, but
yeah, a little humid, but
it's like we're outside.
We're outside.
That's good.
Outside, socially distanced, you know,
with
appropriate with our mask.
I have my Hamilton mask. So.
I actually have I was just at the food bank in Richmond. I have the Feed More mask.
That's cool.
Which is very cool, you know, it's very, appropriate at this moment in time.
More appropriate than my mask. Yeah. So can you tell me what you are rerunning for?
I am the United States Senator, and I am running for re-election. I was in business for 30 years, close to 30 years. I was very fortunate in the telecom business and then venture capital. Then I became governor of Virginia, and I've had 2 terms in the Senate, and I'm asking the people of Virginia to hire me one more time.
I'm going to be cooking today.
Well, we're going to be, you know, I know some people may have checked out in my past. In the early part of the virus, it was kind of like the midst of lockdown and so forth, and politicians were doing all these kind of heartfelt videos of singing a song or cooking their grandma's, you know, favorite chocolate chip cookie, and I thought I'd have a little fun. And I am not known as a good cook, so I created maybe the grossest tuna melt in the history of the country that got more internet hits than almost anything I've done recently.
I could not finish watching that video.
I know, I would not try it at home, so I thought today I would come back out and show you something that I have cooked a number of times, and that is a hot dog. You know, grilling a hot dog appropriately takes about 7 minutes.
Okay.
You know, and he's been on for a couple minutes already. And you know what you can do in 7 minutes? You can actually go to iwillvote.com and be able to learn about your voter registration status or ability to ask for an absentee ballot. So, you know, cook a dog, go on your device, and you know, and figure out how you can make sure your voice will count this November.
Why do you think you should be reelected?
Well, I think hopefully I can earn people's vote because, one, my record, whether it was as governor when Virginia got named the best managed state, best state for business, best state for public education, my time in the Senate where over 50 bills have become law that I've been part of. Most recently, we're here in the great outdoors. Worked for 3.5 years on something called the Great American Outdoors Act that will invest over $6 billion in our national parks and create 10,000 jobs on upgrading the maintenance at our parks. Have also felt during the coronavirus that, you know, we need people with a vision of how we're going to get through the virus, but also how we are going to have our economy recover afterwards. And finally, I think I've got a record that most people in Virginia know that, you know, I'm willing to work with Democrat, Republican, Independent, you name it, if they've got a good idea and we can work towards a goal of putting Virginia country first.
When I heard that you wanted to cook, I was like, I'll do it as long as I don't have to eat that sandwich.
You don't. Well, listen, I will, you know, show the viewers when I'll at least take a bite of this, that when I get my dogs ready, that some of the things I get on the tuna melt were actually we're actually accurate.
I'm kind of disturbed that,
you know, I know. Well, like let's go ahead and get this puppy moving here. Don't know what we're talking about on the tuna melt. You got 2 minutes, and you want to see something that you should not try at home. Just Google Mark Warner tuna melt, and you will see a.
It's kind of disturbing.
Quasi-professional chef.
If you had unlimited time, money, and resources, what issue would you completely solve?
Can I give you 2? One would be I'd make sure that every person in this country had full high-speed internet broadband connectivity. That's not going to guarantee you success, but as we've seen in the virus, whether it's around telehealth or whether it's around learning, it is the utility of the future. My background is all in telecom, and I think we ought to make that a reality. And I'd also spend enormous amount of time recognizing that we've got to treat our investment in human beings differently. We have a society where we don't really value, I think, education and skills and training and investment in human beings. Matter of fact, we have a tax code where you get better tax breaks for investing in a robot than you do in a human being, and I'd love to try to change that. I'd love to make sure every American had the skills they need to succeed in an economy that's going to be increasingly driven by technology and globalization.
During the pandemic, a lot's been going on, a lot of death, a lot of depression and sadness. What would you say to them to try to inspire hope?
Well, I'd say that first, I think we have to acknowledge that we didn't have to be here. That if we'd had national leadership that would have said, let's listen to the science from day one, as opposed to willing the virus away, we wouldn't have 180,000 Americans dead, or literally 5 million people that have gotten the virus. But we live in the greatest country in the world, and if we do some basic things like, respect each other by wearing a mask, if we listen to science, if we continue to make the investments in vaccinations, we're going to get through this. And what we have to realize, though, is, defeating the virus is only the first step. We've got to then make sure that we give people back the kind of economic hope that is missing. I mean, this has been a crisis, not only a healthcare crisis, it's been a crisis that's shown, again, racial disparities and how we treat each other in terms of healthcare, not just criminal justice, but it's also been a crisis for, so many millions of Americans who've lost their job, who are afraid about potentially losing their job, and I give them hope that, that we're going to get through the healthcare crisis. We're going to finally resolve issues in a fair way to make sure each of us have the same kind of fair shot. And a lot of that goes to that basic notion that everybody in America ought to have a fair shot economically. And I think we've still got a lot of work to do. Like ketchup or mustard.
Don't do it.
But,
and then you like.
But you know what? There are some of us that realize that mayonnaise is good on virtually everything, including hot dogs. And I know that there are a series of demographics, particularly young people, that think that anything that involves mayonnaise is totally gross.
Me.
So I may be completely, blowing off a number of my potential voters by this, but
I'm gonna go toss that in the lake.
Not going to toss it in the lake, because we're going to be environmentally friendly here.
Who is your role model, or who inspires you?
From American history, I always was inspired by Abraham Lincoln. I think he was somebody that showed how you deal with a crisis when our country was being ripped apart, and he was willing to work with people that were strong, that disagreed with him. In addition to Abraham Lincoln, kind of a historic, in terms of a current person, John Warner, the guy who had this job before me. He served 30 years in the United States Senate. He was of a different party, but he was a great champion for the military, for our veterans, and he was always willing to put Virginia and our country first, and I'm very, very honored to both be his friend and have his endorsement both in 2014 and this year in 2020. Where I grew up, they didn't have fancy highbrow mayonnaise like Duke's. I grew up with Kraft Miracle Whip, which was like the lowest end, cheapest thing possible.
It's kind of mayonnaise.
It's kind of mayonnaise. It's kind of mayonnaise on the cheap, and I kind of grew up in a family where, the normal lunch was bologna, Velveeta, and a little bit of mayo. So it just became kind of a life thing.
Not just like a grilled cheese sandwich.
Grilled cheese? No, that's like a little too. It's Velveeta.
That's
it's
too
better.
bougie.
It's a little bougie with this.
What is your most embarrassing memory? I have a lot, so I don't think I
have
can
a
answer
lot.
this.
Like, I'm trying to think. what is my most embarrassing memory that I potentially want to share on video with lots of people during the middle of a re-election campaign?
Besides the tuna melt.
Well, yes, maybe the fact that a lot of people, when they saw my tuna melt, didn't get it was a joke.
But you still eat it, right?
Well, I'm not, that. I'm on the Senate Intelligence Committee, and that's classified information, and I can't share it with you or the audience whether I actually ate that disgusting sandwich.
All right. Well, that is a mystery we will never solve.
Don't worry, I'm going to make these ready for you first before
I don't get any.
No, you're going to get some. I'm going to make them, and then make sure we get them appropriately.
Oh!
All right. 5-second rule. 5-second rule. It's all right.
That's Adrian's.
There we go.
So what has Congress done well in response to COVID-19, and what have you all gotten wrong?
Well, I think the fact that at the beginning of the virus, the Congress came together unanimously and made a major investment in aid to states and to hospitals, small businesses. It was called the PPP program. Literally $2.7 trillion, and everybody in Congress agreed. I think we got that right. But I think right now, September 2nd, the fact that we went into recess in August, we didn't finish our job. There's a whole lot of folks who are hurting really badly right now economically, and Congress should have finished putting together another relief package. And my hope is when we come back after Labor Day, we'll finish that.
What is the historical significance of this upcoming presidential election?
Well, I can't think of an election that's more important in my whole life. And I'm old. But whether you like Donald Trump or not, I think he is a divisive president. I think people need to go out and vote. I think we need to hire people who are about trying to unify the country, bring us back together, not try to divide us on partisan issues or on race. I think we're in a world where we have rising powers like China that are trying to literally become international leaders, and America's leadership around the world needs to step up again. We need to have this economy that really meets everyone where they're at, and we need to grapple with the issues around race in this country that for literally hundreds of years we have not fully taken on. So my hope will be that everyone will go to iwillvote.com and figure out how you can make sure your voice will be heard. And I say this as somebody who also realizes, as the vice chair of the Intelligence Committee, we also have to make sure this election is secure, because there are foreign nations like Russia and others who are going to try to interfere. And at the end of the day, Americans ought to be deciding this election, not foreign intervention.
Oh no.
Kara?
Yeah?
Ketchup or mustard?
I am a ketchup girl.
Okay. That's it. Adrian?
Mustard, please.
Mustard, all right.
Specifically on the one that fell on the ground.
And for me, kind of an all-American special. And here for the special extra part. Now, that is a lighter dose of mayonnaise than I normally would, but after the tuna melt video, I thought, my heart might clog before election.
Congress passes laws and the states have to implement them. How can Virginia congressional leaders better assist the Commonwealth with rolling out big programs like the CARES Act?
I bring, I think, a special knowledge. I was governor of Virginia, and when I left that job, Virginia was ranked the best managed state, the best state for business, and the best state for receiving a public education. And so knowing how challenging it is sometimes when the federal government passes rules down to the states, I try to make sure that we only make rules that the state can actually enforce. If we ask the state to do something, we need to help them with financial resources. I'm somebody who has spent longer in business than I have in politics. And I feel as somebody in business, you get measured by what you get done. Too many people in politics, they're all about just tearing down the other side. And I think my experience as a chief executive, as somebody that was a business leader, brings me a different perspective in Congress. I mean, I can actually read a balance sheet that most members, doesn't matter which party, can understand. So I think I've always kept in mind, if you do something in Washington, what it'll affect will be not only at the state capitol in Richmond, but what it's going to be affect across the 134 jurisdictions across Virginia.
Anything else you want to tell the voters?
We really need to make sure your voice is counted. And, this is a year where when we've got things being screwed up at the post office, where it appears people are trying to outside influences interfere in our elections, that you take the time to go out and vote. And in Virginia, we now can start voting 45 days earlier, September 18th. You can vote by mail. You can request an absentee ballot right now. Or if you want to wait till Election Day, it's going to be a state holiday. So everybody's got a right to complain about what's good or bad in Washington, but everybody also, I believe, has an obligation to vote.
So
All right, ladies.
How much mayonnaise do you eat a day?
On a normal day, my kids think my mayonnaise affinity is just as gross as you guys think.
So they don't hide it from you?
Oh no, they think it is disgusting. But all right, we ready to do this?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Socially
Cheers.
distanced cheers.
What do you think, Kara?
Good hot dog, but I'm like,
Red, yellow, and white. Almost all American.